We have with us Dr. Ronak Solanki. He's another dynamic young surgeon, cataract and refractive surgery. He's practicing in Baikula, Mumbai. So let's see his nice learning video. On to you, Dr. Ronak.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be talking about a challenging scenario which we face in a day-to-day OT list in the form of small pupil management without the use of any rings or hooks. So basically, it's a case where it's an elastic pupil with grade 3 to 4 cataract, and after using viscoelastics, there is not much mydriasis. You can see that the continuous capsulorhexis is being done blindly under the pupil margin. And you can see after the use of viscoelastics also, there is not much pupillary dilatation. So what next? So we resort to a stretch pupilloplasty in the hope that there will be micro sphincter tears and there will be some pupillary dilatation. Stretch pupilloplasty is done in opposite direction to achieve maximum effect. In spite of that, there is nothing that has worked. So now we can use rings or hooks. I don't prefer to use them. So we come back to the basics of using the Purkinje image as a guide. If you see in the diagram, yeah. So, and along with the Purkinje image, it helps you to keep it in the central safe zone of 2 to 3 millimeters. And a vertical chopping technique is much more preferred and safer. Subsequently, the pieces are chopped. What happens with a iris hooks and Malyugin ring or a B-hex is it achieves slight dilatation more, but eventually you are in the central safe zone. So my point was to highlight that with a little more patience, you can be in the center irrespective of using any device. After the pieces are, the quadrants are made. Again, stressing on the fact that you should just keep the Purkinje images as a guide. You remove the pieces out of the bag slightly and make them in a vertical quadrant in a pizza slice approach where you now then emulsify it from the apex of the piece so that you are at a deeper level. And also what happens is that it keeps the iris and the pupil at bay. If you see in the next quadrant, which is going to be emulsified, the nucleus quadrant itself acts as a pupil expansion device. And you can easily complete your maneuvers in the bag or at a pupillary plane without the use of hooks, and subsequent pieces are then emulsified. More importantly, in these cases, some cases they have a very shallow angle, shallow anterior chamber. So therefore, being at a pupil plane or in the deep plane helps you to protect the corneal endothelium as well. So again, the pieces, I prefer to keep them, slightly vertically oriented, because what happens, you tend to just take it out from the easy way at the base and you are then at a higher level. So along with and I'd never forget the Purkinje image as a guide, in spite of it being a very basic thing to see. Then coming on to the epinucleus is removed along with the last piece. And then comes a very important step of using bimanual irrigation and aspiration. So bimanual irrigation and aspiration helps you to visualize and recheck under the iris also by just tucking away and seeing that the margins are intact and all the cortical fragments are removed. Better than a coaxial elimination. The case is then routinely completed. And then the take-home points are that most cases don't require hooks or rings. Purkinje images are your best guide for phacoemulsification. A vertical chop is safest in the central 2 to 3 millimeter zone. Orienting the pieces vertically keeps the iris by, the nuclear fragment acts as a pupil expansion device. And also it helps you keep your phacoemulsification at a lower plane by targeting the apex first. Bimanual irrigation aspiration prevents any iris damage and does a good cleanup. And with a little more focus and patience, it's the key to handling small pupil cases without the need of hook and rings. Thank you.
That's a lovely, simple presentation. Anaga, you take your questions first.
Yes, ma'am. Nice presentation, Dr. Ronak. I just wanted to ask you a few questions. Any specific reason why you do not want to use a pupillary expander? Because nowadays you get excellent pupillary expanders like the retractors or even the B-hex rings. And even though what you mentioned was the Purkinje images act like a guide, but it would become a little difficult for a beginner, for example. Experienced surgeon like you definitely would be able to manage and get things done. But many times you could catch the pupillary margin, and that could keep coming into the phaco probe, and this could finally end up having more problems. So any specific reason why you do not want to use?
So, as I mentioned, in most cases, maybe I say 8 out of 10 cases, I would not want to. The only cases where I find it's a real challenge is when in those diabetic hard cataracts where the posterior plate cannot be separated with your lateral separation. So there you need a wider exposure and you need to go more towards the equator region and split the plate posteriorly. And in cases of IFIS, where in that also where I would use, instead of 4 hooks, I would use another 5th hook under the phaco probe so that it doesn't keep catching it. So unless it's a really hard cataract, like a diabetic cataract where the posterior plate needs to be subsequently separated, and you have to keep an eye on whether the phaco tip is getting caught periphery, and you may need to do a trench approach, where a trench is better for the lateral separation and has less damage to the zonule. I think just the central vertical chop approach in the routine other cases should do well.
No, what I have to tell you is, I feel that if it's an elastic pupil, which you mentioned in the first place, I think that is a situation where you should not do a stretch pupilloplasty. Stretch pupilloplasty ideally should be done in a rigid pupil, because here what can happen, elastic pupil is the one which can go for an IFIS. So you've done it anyway. Now, supposing you are lucky, you did a beautiful case so well, but supposing you had iris prolapse, at that point of time, would you have used iris hooks or not?
Yes. If that's what I'm saying, it also sometimes depends on the grade of the cataract. If I can centrally get it and emulsify it without manipulating much and trying to draw out the pieces out of the bag on a little more higher level, I would definitely use hooks or rings later on if it's required.
Dr. Mahipal, you have when would you use any of these devices? What is your criteria?
Okay, so Ronak, great presentation. The only thing is, I think an individual should know his strengths and weaknesses. We should not be prodding people to not use rings or hooks because of the simple fact that if you can get away with it, it does not mean that anybody else will be able to get away with it. A couple of things, counterintuitive to use stretch pupilloplasty because you are going to leave the pupil disfigured post-operatively, which would not happen if you're using a Malugin ring or if you're using a BX, and it makes the iris more floppy. So basically that causes a problem as regards the whole thing. Purkinje images is good for you to say, but essentially you're working in the central portion. That's about it. There is nothing more than that. The second thing which is important that you need to use is Phenogain, because Phenogain is today available in India and it's very inexpensive. So whenever I have a small pupil, the first thing I will do would be to put Phenogain, wait for some time and see whether that extends or not. And ideally, you should preoperatively have seen this patient and maybe started the patient on atropine preoperatively. The other thing is the Y retractor. You should always be keeping the iris away from where the probe is going so that the iris does not come. And once it comes into the phaco probe, then you are again in a difficult situation that is there. I would also be able to get away with this size of a pupil, but for anybody who is not very comfortable, if you have an intubescent cataract and the rhexis is running off and you are doing something without visibility, it doesn't make sense. So being heroic and not putting a ring would be, according to me, not the best of things. Even if we are reasonably unsure, we should err on the side of caution. And I would put a ring under the circumstances where I feel that I stretch pupilloplasty is almost out. We are not using it anymore because that is something which disfigures the iris and the tone of the iris, the pupil functioning, etc. goes off. So preoperative atropine, intracameral Phenogain, using a Y and being less heroic at times is what my comfort would be. And if there is a history of tamsulosin, I would go on the side of erring on the side of caution, because these people keep on coming down, and once you catch the iris, it becomes something which becomes a difficult situation for anybody to handle.
Dr. Ramurthy, you have anything to add?
I think Mahipal has said almost everything.
Yeah.
I'll just reiterate the fact, especially if I'm suspecting IFS and there's history of tamsulosin, it's best not to use stretch pupilloplasty because you're going to have a frayed pupil which will literally be attracted to the phaco tip like a magnet. I mean, in a softer cataracts, in a grade of cataract that you said, and with your level of proficiency, maybe you can manage without just using cohesive viscoelastics, using the right phaco parameters. But if at all I need to need a larger pupil, I'd use a high-risk hooks or one of the pupil expanding devices. I think in today's world, it's a wrong message to give to try stretch pupilloplasty at all, because subsequently, with especially IFS situation, you will be in quite a bit of a mess.
Dr. Sandeep, you have anything to add?
Yeah, nothing really, except that he showed a great deal of patience.
Yes.
And sometimes I agree with him. Sometimes you have started a case and then the pupil comes down on you, or maybe sometimes you've done one quadrant and the pupil is coming down on you. At that time, you have no option, but to continue. If you have the patience, of course, you can come out and put in a ring or you can put in your hooks. But sometimes, even for the beginners, it is important for them to see such cases, to see how well he managed, how he stayed in the center all the time. He kept the anterior chamber well formed and used his instruments judicially to remove all the pieces of the nuclei. I think it was a case very well done.
Yeah, it was an amazingly well done case. I also want.
Yeah, no, I would reiterate what you said, Sandeep, in the sense that he managed it very well. The only point I had against is maybe usage of the stretch pupilloplasty. If you're
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah. No, I agree with you, Ramu.
Case was very well done.
Very well.
I think he has very well managed the fluidics also. It's not just staying in the center of the pupil.
He maintained the chamber, yes, very well. Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful surgery.
Thank you.
Yeah.